With our world dressed up the way that it is, another thing that we can customize the look of our game is to actually change the lighting. So there's a couple ways that we can adjust our lighting. The main light in our scene, and what you might think of as the sun, is actually controlled by this directional light. Let me put these guys in my plants object here. So the directional light controls the big light that kind of lights our whole scene. And one thing that's really cool about it is that this object has, the same properties as our normal objects when it comes to rotation. And more specifically, if we get up close to it, you can kind of see this little these lines coming off the middle of this rotation gizmo. That's actually the direction that our light is shining. And if we use our rotation gizmo, again, you can pull that up by pressing E, we can actually change where this light is shining from. And you'll see as I rotate it to the left and the right, I can change, where the shadows are projecting. If I rotate it back and forward, I can make them move up or down as well. Another thing that's really cool about the directional lighting is as you get closer to even, it actually starts to look like sunset. You see that? And so what we're able to do with this is actually do some pretty cool effects and have a lot of control over how our sun kind of shines down on our scene. So let's give that a custom rotation that we like. And keep in mind that the lower you go, the darker it is. So we don't want to make it too dark. We probably want to keep it up pretty high. But we can turn our shadows so that they're a little bit to the edge and maybe a little bit lower than it was before. I think that looks pretty good. We got those nice long shadows coming off of our buildings and our crops and our flowers. We can also adjust the intensity. So if you look at the light component over here in the inspector, we can turn the intensity down or up to increase the brightness of this light. So I'm going to turn it down just a smidge to 0.8. And then we can also change the color too. So if we click on this little color field, it opens up our color picker. And we can change the color to anything that we want. We can give our world pink lighting, bright pink lighting, and you'll see it looks all crazy when we do that. We can give it white lighting, and it'll be basically the exact colors that our objects are in the real world. We can give it a slight red. Since I'm going for kind of a sunset effect, I'm going to choose an orange, and I'm going to lean a little bit towards the orange side, not too much. Something like that, I think, looks pretty cool. And now our directional light is nice and customized. We can also make use of what are called area lights. Point lights. So point lights are going to be lights that we can place in our scene that are going to light the area around them. So before we do that, let's create an empty object and call it lights. And then let's right click on that object, go down to the light option and choose the point light. So this point light, when you select it, it has this big sphere around it. That's actually the range of the light. And you'll notice if I move it down into these shadows, we can illuminate the area around the light. So you'll see those lights or those shadows are getting lit up there. Just like with our directional light, we can adjust the color to be whatever we want. So we can make it yellow, green, blue, whatever we think is a cool light. I think red always has a nice effect with these area lights. It kind of makes it a little bit spooky there. And we can also, again, adjust the intensity to make it more bright. So if I drag that over, you'll see it gets really bright if we make it a big number, or really dim if we make it small. And we can also adjust the range. So this range field in our light component is what controls the size of this yellow sphere. So if I drag that over to the right, we can make this red light do a lot of work and light just a ton of stuff in our scene. Now, I don't want my light to be that big. I'm going to scale it back down, maybe to something like 15. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm actually going to move it back into the woods a bit. Sort of like this. So it's kind of like these woods are a little scary over here. Maybe over to the side just a bit so that our camera will notice that as we walk by. I'm going to add another light here by just selecting our point light and duplicating it with Control D. We're going to move this one back on top, but we're going to give it a white color. And we're going to turn the intensity down a good bit, something like 0.7, just enough to illuminate the path there. Also move it up in the air off the ground so that it goes away. If you want to get a good look at things without the circles and the little icons here, you can actually press the gizmos button up here to make all that stuff disappear. So now we can see what this light will look like in our main camera. And we can see that that light is lit. Tap the gizmos button again to get those back. I'm also going to add some yellow light over our bridge here, so I'll duplicate this point light and move it over. Keep in mind that there is a limit on the number of lights that you can have in your scene. I believe the limit is 9, though it could be smaller than that. So let's try not to shoot for more than 6. But I'm going to throw a light on my bridge here. I'm going to throw another light coming from one of these houses. So let's say a nice yellow light. And we'll make it come from this one you walk towards. There we go. We'll move it right up into this window, and we'll give it a nice yellow color. Turn the range down quite a bit, so it's just like it's lighting this one window. Move it over just a smidge. There we go. And if I turn off my gizmos, it looks like somebody's home in this house. And maybe we'll do that for a couple of these houses here. So we'll add one here. And then we'll put one in this downstairs window. There, I think that looks pretty cool. I think I want to do one more of these yellow lights. I think this is a really nice effect when you put them in the window like this. So we'll put one in one of these houses over here, right by where you start. There we go, just like that. Perfect. So now it makes our houses look a little more lived in. And if we turn our gizmos back on, of course, we get the icons so that we can keep all that stuff sorted. So try to add at least 5 of those point lights and maybe customize your directional light a little bit before we move on to the next step.